And like I was saying, hadn't been in church at that time. Since I moved to Dallas, I tried a time or two, but I just couldn't get back in. And so I've been freelancing and basically just going my own way, doing things my own way. I kind of had an attitude there for a while that, come on, world, give me your best shot because I'm bigger and better than any of you guys, and I can take what you got and give it back to you in spades. And all of a sudden, the world gave me that, and lost Eddie and had a divorce, and found out I wasn't nearly as big and bad as I thought I was. I was just a sniveling, whining crybaby at that point in time. I remember it well. It was not fun. But I sat there. I made a conscious decision, and I'm sitting there pondering all this. And what Merle Haggard used to have a song, "What am I going to do with the rest of my life?" That's kind of the thought that was going through my head. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? I'm 30 years old. I got 2 adopted kids. They're looking to me for some sort of leadership. They had their daddy, they had their mama, but I was a pretty important part of their life. So I had some responsibilities there that you just don't dodge those things. So I was sitting there one night and trying to figure it out. I thought, well, I can either go back to going to bars and hanging out in those places and trying to meet people like that, or maybe I ought to think about going back to church. And not that everybody I meet at church is going to be a saint, because they're not, but my odds are improved by going to church. The quality of people I'm going to meet, there's better odds in the church than there is outside of the church. Not saying you can't meet good people outside of the church, you most certainly can. Not saying you can't meet some real stinkers in church, you most certainly can. But the odds are more in your favor. So I started going back to a little small Baptist church there in Rowlett. I did that for just a little while, but they were more of an older crowd, and I was about 30, and so I got to looking around, and there was a church down the street. It was a Baptist church, Southern Baptist church. They had what they call a single parent Sunday school class. This was geared towards people that had been through divorce, for the most part. Some of them were widows and widowers, but for the most part it was for divorced people. And most of the churches I'd ever been in treated divorced people like they were some kind of pariah or something. They just, you had this big D on your head that, I don't know, you can't fraternize them folks, they've been divorced. But Lake Point was different. And they tried to create an atmosphere that was welcoming and inviting and healthy for divorced people to come. And so I started going there. And I went 5 years between my divorce and marrying your grandma. And for the biggest part of that 5 years, I did not date. I did a little bit. And a couple of them were really nice ladies that just, there wasn't anything wrong with them, they just weren't the right one. I was being celibate. That was, to me, that was important, because you almost have to be in order to think clearly in relationships. You give up the celibacy in a relationship and you're not thinking clear anymore. And that's just the way that works. Argue it all day long. That's the facts. Been there, done that. So I know what I'm talking about. After I had dated a nurse, and after she and I quit seeing each other, it went quite a while before I saw anybody else, but I started going to different group activities with this single parent Sunday school class. And There was a place in Rockwall called the Southern Junction. It was a dance hall slash steakhouse, one of those places where you go in and pick a steak and they cook it for you, or you can cook it yourself. And then they've got a dance floor and they've got a live band. And a bunch of us would go over on Saturday nights, and there was little to no drinking at all. I mean, for the most part, we just didn't. But it was a Sunday school class hanging out in this bar. We had softball teams and we had volleyball teams and such as that. And we'd do group activities. We'd do group camp outs up at Lake Texoma and stuff like that. And that's where I met your grandma, was in that Sunday school class. And I saw her that day and I thought, whoa, man, look at that, would you? Doggone. Bless her mama and her daddy. But it took a while. We did a lot of group activities. We were friends in as much as you can be friends on a volleyball court or a softball field. Or we did do a group camp out that one time up at Texoma, and she and some of her friends and me and some of my friends from church, we all went up there for a weekend camp out, and that was a lot of fun. But shortly after that weekend camp out, I think that she threw a party, a Thanksgiving party, for a bunch of us, and we went over there, and our first date was the next night, and we ain't looked back since. It's been 27 years. That was started dating in 1994. We ain't looked back since, and it's ironic that I told you I had tried once to get married to a girl named Cindy, and my daddy wouldn't allow it. And here I am in 1995, married a girl named Cindy. I don't know if my timing was just that bad or what, but it is kind of ironic. So, anyway, that was in 1995. And what I really didn't talk about a whole lot and all that is during all this time, I'd cut my drinking way, way back. Just didn't drink a whole lot. I'd still get a little tired every once in a while, but I didn't really. But I was a 3-pack a day cigarette smoker, and I'd go through a box of Copenhagen about every 2 days. I was dating that nurse, and she was trying to get me on the nicotine patches, and I'd sit there, I'd have a nicotine patch on my arm, dip snuff in my mouth, and smoking a cigarette, and I still couldn't get enough nicotine. No wonder I didn't kill myself. It really is, you can't overdose on nicotine, it can kill you. But when your grandma and I started seeing each other, I wouldn't smoke when I was with her. So I might show up at her house at lunch on a Saturday. Might stay till midnight before I'd go home. That whole 12-hour period, I wouldn't have a cigarette. I'd get to the house, I'd smoke a pack before I went to bed. And Michael used to pick at me about it. He thought it was kind of funny. I'd sit there in that chair and just smoke cigarette after cigarette before I'd ever even go to bed. Anyway, that was 1995. And in May of 95, we got married in November. But in May, I quit smoking and quit tobacco, period. And I'm just going to tell you, it's the hardest thing I ever did. And people tell you take it one day at a time. Well, when I quit smoking, I was taking it in 5-minute increments. Let's get through this 5 minutes, we'll worry about the next one when this is over with. But I finally did get off of them and stayed off of them. I hadn't had one since, and that was Memorial Day weekend in 1995. Ain't had one. I'm scared to death of them. There ain't no way I'd like one right now because in my mind, I'd be a 3-pack a day smoker again in just a matter of weeks. Whether I would or not, I don't know, but I'm too scared to find out. And once in a while, I see these folks smoking them big fancy cigars, and they $10 or $15 cigar. It would be nice to sit down with a really good cigar and a cup of coffee and enjoy it, but can't do that. That's not something I can do because I'll be a smoker again. I know myself too well. Like I said, that was 1995. We married in November. In September of 1996, and this was 25. 25 years ago this week, Michael suicided. And I don't know if y'all even really know of him, know about him. But it hurt. Hurt then, it hurts now. So when stuff like that happens, you gotta figure out how to get through it. And I'm just gonna tell you, I never would have got through it. Except you heard that saying, footprints in the sand. And when there's only one set of footprints, it's because the Lord was carrying you. Well, He's been told me for a long time. That's how I got through that. There's a verse in Romans 8:28, and I'll paraphrase it. All things work together for those that love the Lord. There's a little blank on it now. But basically, it's all things work together for those that love the Lord. That's the short version. And I don't know what the good is that's going to come out of Michael's suicide. Don't know if I'll ever know this side of heaven. But I can trust in the fact that there is something good that has come out of it somewhere, somehow, some way. And between the Lord and Grandma, they got me through it. And I don't need to dwell on this too much. Just know that God had my back. He did carry me through it. And I trust in that. I look back over the years and I see all the times where He carried me and I didn't even realize He was carrying me. I see all the times where God protected me and I didn't even realize I was being protected. And that adds to your faith when you start looking at those things and you start seeing them. It makes it easier to trust that, okay, He's got this too. I'm out of time on this one. So if you're still interested, I reckon hang in there. We'll do another part.